Sorry, I look like I just woke up. Well, hello, everyone. It's your girl Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. So, if you are unfamiliar with this show, let me tell you what the show is about. This show is the show where we talk that real talk. We talk that talk about things in education, employment, mental health, physical health, or anything that is steamy. If you check out our prior episodes, we've done episodes on divorce, we've done episodes about financial planning, budgeting. I'm trying to remember being a divorcee. We've done quite a bit of episodes, and we've been at this for a while. And today is no different. So I am excited about this episode today. And I'm excited because we have a repeat topic. And it's a different guest, but it's a repeat topic. And we're bringing it back. So the guests keep coming in, but we're bringing it back. So let me tell you what that topic is. So the topic of this episode is Living with a Disability, Part 15. That's right. This is the 15th time we have brought back this topic. And we like to bring topics back because there are multiple perspectives to one thing. So we like to take one little thing and look at it from multiple points of view. So, yes, that is sorry. I'm trying to get my words out. So you're not losing it. This is part 15, Living with a Disability, part 15. So this is number 15, y'all. And I have a guest with me who is going to sit on the hot seat, who is going to go into the tunnel of fire with me today on the hot seat. His name is Simon Arnold, and this is his first interview, y'all. So let's see if he can take the fire. So I'm looking forward to this episode. So without further ado, I am going to get started. Who is Simon Arnold? Let me tell you who he is. Give me 1 second. All right. So Simon Arnold is the author of the book, The 13-Hour Life Coach, which details success strategies for adults who have ADHD. Between 5 to 8% of the general population have ADHD, but it is thought that undiagnosed ADHD could affect up to 20% of the population in total. ADHD isn't just a neurological disorder that just affects children. Those that have it as children can still have ADHD when they go into adulthood. So, Simon wrote a book that explains all of that, and his book offers a fresh perspective on living a life with ADHD, or which is known as Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, and those who think that they have it. Each chapter gives the reader an insight into what living with ADHD is like and details the most important part of each, with a principal section acting as a summary. And on top of that, he has a podcast with the same name, the 13-Hour Life Coach. So season 1, Simon tells his story and success strategies in different areas of life. And season 2 is with guests talking about ADHD, whether they have it or not, which strategies they use, and which listeners to the podcast can use too. So he has a book and he has a podcast with the same name. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him to the stage.
Hi,
Hi,
Gabrielle.
Simon. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you very much. How are you?
Good. So Welcome to the hot. Sorry, welcome to the hot seat. This isn't the first time that we brought up ADHD. I think this is actually this particular disorder. I think this is the 13th time. So yeah, so we've definitely been on a journey with this one.
Yeah.
But in terms of disabilities in general, you are number 15. So congratulations on helping us with that milestone.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So you have an amazing story, and I want the world to hear it. So I'm going to pass the baton over to you, and I'm just going to have you start talking about your journey.
Okay. So I'm Simon Arnold. I'm the author of the book, The 13-Hour Life Coach. People actually call me the 13-Hour Life Coach now. I was diagnosed with ADHD in December 2019. And after I was diagnosed, there was really no help. I didn't find any help out there. I went to psychologists that sat there in front of me with a book on disorders and went through, checked what I said to, checking what their book said and agreed with me. And I found that I wasn't getting any further. So when I was registering my children with their doctors, I was writing success strategies that I needed for myself with ADHD. And the doctor said, that looks really interesting. You should write a book. And I said it would be in English because I live in Germany. And she said, it doesn't matter. I want to be the first person to get this book because there's too much scientific based books out there for people that can't really understand or get to grips with what's being written about. And they wanted more of a layman's point of view on ADHD.
All right. All right. So let's unpack that. So take us through the beginning. So what was it, something that you suspected? Was it something your doctor suspected? How did it come about that you received this diagnosis?
Well, it's really interesting. It was maybe a year before we had the idea of, my wife had the idea. I said to her, I'm going to do some meditation tonight. So I found a yoga block and a yoga mat and went into a room and meditated for the very first time. And after 3 hours, she came into the room and tapped me on the shoulder and said, you've been gone for 3 hours. And I said, oh my goodness, I thought it was 5 minutes. And when I explained to her that the meditation actually just got rid of all the outside sounds that I was experiencing, and for the first time that I had quietness within my mind and body, it kind of threw up a few questions. And then later on in the year, she gave me a sheet of paper with 20 areas that people could have ADHD in, and she said, I think you've got all 20. And I looked through the list over an hour and thought that I had 17. And that was really the push then to go for a diagnosis.
Do you recall what was on the list?
Yeah, it would be from my podcast that I do. It would be, for example, a scattered CV, and that means that people like me have mostly had many jobs. I've had 13 jobs within 20 years, compared to friends of mine who don't have ADHD who have had 3 or 4. There would be also reacting rather than responding. So not having that time just to think something through before saying something, and just many other areas of the list that I just went through and thought, yes, that's me. Problem planning, solving, for example, doing a job but not completing it, or starting another job without finishing the first job. Things like this.
So so your wife noticed these things about you. Was it she just noticed at that moment, or did she always notice this?
Well, I was at medical school studying physiotherapy for the third time, and we'd been together for 20 years. So I'd studied in Australia and failed, and London and failed, and Berlin and failed. And she said, this can't, what's happening here? You're spending all your evenings studying, and then you go into an exam and you get a complete fail, like you've never even looked at the stuff. And she said, something's wrong. And she found this list and went through and said, I think you've got it. And one of the problems is with ADHD is the fact that and I've said this a few times, even in the first chapter of the book, I can read something, but I can't understand what I've read. So I could only understand something from the age of 40, from the age of 42. Otherwise, all of the years before, I couldn't understand anything.
So I just want to understand what you just said. So you can read something, but you don't understand what you're reading.
Yes.
Okay. And what does it matter if a passage is short versus long?
The example I give in the book is that I read Harry Potter 3 times through. And I asked my wife, is it normal for people to read a book 3 times through before they can understand it? And she said, no, you should be able to understand a book on the first go. That's why, people enjoy reading books, not to read it 10 times and then finally know what's going on. And she found that when she asked me about the story, I could only tell her 2 characters of the book, and even the name of the book I would mix up. I wouldn't even get that correct.
So now I'm wondering, because you said you studied to be a doctor. So how did you get through school knowing you had this difficulty?
Well, I've written it in the book, which is behind me here. In Germany, you can go to medical school to learn physiotherapy. So that's what I was doing, trying to learn doing physiotherapy. And what I'd found is I'd been in the area since I was 17 years old at a private practice with a friend, just picking up the information. I knew I wasn't very good at learning. I didn't know it was that bad. And I thought that a drip feed experience in physiotherapy would be enough that what I needed to pass a course, and it actually wasn't.
So it sounds like you were learning by hearing, right? So people would say things and you would remember it, and you learned best that way.
Yeah, I would try and put myself into as many different settings as possible. So I went to Australia and learned what we call manual therapy techniques as well, where it's the best in the world. I wanted to study the best in the world. So I thought that I could use that experience in my life, but I couldn't recall the information that I'd learned. I actually couldn't. It was like a sieve. It was like it wouldn't ever stay in there.
Okay. All right. So now let's fast forward. So your wife tells you her suspicions and you're concerned, obviously. So now you go to the doctor to get evaluated, and tell us what happened there.
Okay, so my wife helped me write the letters to psychotherapists, and we wrote 30 letters until the psychotherapist took me on, and I went to a hospital to get all my tests done, so get heart checks. There was also a surprise drug test as well. They did that. They do that in Germany just to make sure that you're clean. If you're going to get medication for ADHD, they need to know that your body is going to take that. And I ended up doing 8 months of testing, manner of testing, written tests as well, interviews. I had to phone up my primary school when I was about 5-6 years old to see what the grades were, show that I actually failed everything, which I did. And that was really part of the assessment that I went through.
8 months is a long time. That's pretty grueling. Um, what were you feeling? What were you thinking? What was happening as you were going through these 8 months?
Well, it should have only been 4 months, but my first psychotherapist actually left. And I was passed on to another lady and basically started from the beginning. And I do have a genetic condition, and it's all tied in with that, of course. And ADHD has got a prevalence rate of 50 to 55% of the genetic condition called TSC that I have. But yeah, it was quite grueling. I went for one test, which really you could give to a 5-year-old, with shapes and numbers, and try to order them. There were 20 examples. I got to the 8th one and cried my eyes out. I couldn't do it. I said, I cannot do this anymore. And they found out that I have a concentration span of 20 minutes.
Whoa, what was that like when you heard that?
Well, it just made everything clear. If I have a concentration span of 20 minutes, and this is what I'm finding when I'm speaking with so many other people with ADHD, that if you're in a classroom your whole life and it goes on for 45 minutes, you're going to miss 25 minutes of the information. So you might as well not stay in the first place. This is what I found out, and it's quite sad, really. It's quite tormenting just to go through the process, this washing machine, and never really getting anywhere.
Yeah, and I imagine, you studied physical therapy, and I mean the classes are long, I'm assuming. So so and then given the intensity of what you were studying, I imagine it was difficult to concentrate for that long.
Yeah, and I had to give up the course. I hadn't finished going through my ADHD diagnosis, and I decided to give up the course because I knew that I just couldn't understand what I was reading. It was as simple as that. But then things started to change.
Started to change how?
Okay, so I got a diagnosis in 2019 in December, and it was suggested that I take medication, and I did. And my life switched from one day to the next. The book Harry Potter, by the way, I read all the way through, and not only could I actually remember the name of the book, it's been a while since I've read it though, I could actually remember the story and the characters in there after I took medication, so I could finally understand what I read.
That sounds like a relief.
Yeah, it's the most wonderful thing in the world to get to 42 and actually realize, yeah, there was a problem, but it's all good now. And I love reading. I read 80 books within 2 years.
Good for you. Good for you. That is an accomplishment.
Yeah, it really is. It's just a wonder of life, really. I mean, fantastic. Doing what everyone else could do in a natural way, but I didn't know that I functioned differently.
So where are you now with school? Are you going back? Are you still off? What's going on there?
So I've decided not to carry on with physiotherapy. And I've written my book, of course, The 13-Hour Life Coach, which is here. And I've launched a podcast. The first season of the 13-Hour Life Coach podcast, I did in English and German. So I did in 2 languages, which was great and got really good reviews. And now I'm on season 2 which is concentrating on women and ADHD and their late diagnosis, speaking to them, seeing what they're going through, and see if we can come up with some success strategies for them to use in their lives.
Well, speaking of strategies, let's get into that. So, what are some strategies that you've used to help you manage your symptoms?
Okay, can you be more specific? Give me a concrete example, and I can tell you something.
All right, So I'm just trying to remember what previous guests have told me. So let's say, trying to say, now I got to think about it. Okay, socialization, relationships with other people. What are some strategies there?
Okay, so if I'm in a group of people around a table, maybe we're all eating or something. My wife would actually put a timer on for 6 minutes on her phone, and because I keep talking, I wouldn't even notice the time rolling because I live in the present all the time. And when the vibration would go off, it would mean that was my key to stop. But there's a really interesting thing about social contact and interaction, which I've got, which I speak with Dr. Laura Januzik on season 2, a listening expert, really the only expert on listening I think there is, actually. Maybe I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but she's fantastic. And I explained to her that if I'm in a group of people and there's 3 people and I'm the 4th, I couldn't ever understand the conversation, the way it was working. I couldn't join in with that, and that was really where it was difficult. But with medication, it's actually fine. I can actually concentrate on someone and then another person and then another person, and it works fine now. But without medication, it wouldn't have worked.
Okay. So, what about concentrating on academic studies for people that have to take classes, for people that are in college, or sorry, you're on the other side of the world, who are in university.
Yeah.
What's your suggestions for them?
Okay, so if they think they're undiagnosed, they have ADHD. I wrote it, I think it's in chapter 7 of my book, A Class-Based Environment. I just wanted to tell them that whispering, for example, is something you're more likely to concentrate on in a class environment than the teacher actually speaking. The people that, and we associate whispering with people that don't really want to do the work or anything, but they could be the people that actually do the work, and they're the people that we want to stick with. So if they're, I always found that as an older person with ADHD, I'd be around a lot younger people. So it was almost like, wow, what can I learn from them today? That's a big tip. Another tip is see which people are really well organized, because I'm not that well organized. So the lady in the class or the guy in the class who has got really good folders and really neat and everything looks really good, just ask them how they did it. If you work more verbally, for example, instead of wanting to read a passage of information, meet up with someone in the break time and write some things on the whiteboard, and just mix in more verbally with written rather than just written. So find out really what works for you and then just emphasize that.
So what about parents who have children with ADHD, diagnosed or undiagnosed? What are your suggestions for parents who I don't want to say managing their kids, but how do they help? How do parents help their children who have ADHD?
Okay, so one of my children does have ADHD, and what I do is it's called setting my grid. I learned this from Esther Hicks. She always says, just set your grid for the day, and that basically what I do is from my own ideas and strategies, really just because I take meds, I'll take my meds, and then I will meditate with guided meditation to basically slowly come into the day. So I don't want to be hectic. Normally, I would normally do this at 4 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock, and then basically slowly get the things prepared for the children in the morning. What's really interesting is that I've bought a bench which is wavy, so that when we sit down and our hands do move, that we've got something smooth and contoured to follow rather than just a flat piece of wood. And things like this, the daily routine. We don't have the radio on. It's quite annoying, really. We don't want another distraction in a way. They do have wooden blocks on the table as well, which they can take apart and then build together and make like little houses and things. And they can talk with each other as well, and they can talk with me while moving their hands around, because we do move around quite a lot.
So it's interesting that you brought up your son who has ADHD. I'm just gonna pivot a little bit here. So now that you are aware of your ADHD, and now that you see that your son has it, so what do you feel that you relate to your son more, and do you feel better equipped to help him?
Well, I'm really, just because of having ADHD, a specialist with ADHD now, and because I have it, I wrote the book for my kids, so that they have a guide when they're older, and can go through the 17 chapters in the book. The principles and strategies take about a year to work, and I always go back to these strategies as well and use them myself, and they're really great. They're really great. So yes, it's basically someone that my son can come and have a chat with me, that really I can tell him all about it because I experience the same thing.
Awesome. And so our from I've learned from my previous guest that spoke about ADHD that it tends to run in families. So there is a hereditary component to that. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Well, the research says, and it may be a little bit different now, but what I know right now is that it's genetic. It can also be caused by alcohol or drug misuse from the mother when the baby's in the womb. So the synapses and the neurology of the baby isn't formed that well, because ADHD is really a neuro deficit in a way, and also people that have concussions to their head, so damage to their head, even when they're an adult. So that means that the brain doesn't work as it used to, and that can be another cause for ADHD. So really, these three principles are what is kind of in the area of ADHD for what causes ADHD.
Interesting. So now going back to your book, so now I'm wondering, now you have your symptoms. How are you able to write a book? Did your wife help you? Did you type it out? Did you maybe use some sort of dictation software where you spoke into a microphone and the words came on the page? How did you do that?
Well, people with ADHD, and I already said, have 13 different jobs. One of them was being a journalist. So I really like writing. And if you speak to ADHD people, we can't live, and I wrote it in my book, the worst thing you can do with someone with ADHD is to take their notepad away. I write all the time. So I wrote for 2 hours a day. It was during COVID. It took me a year and a half to write 740 hours. Fortunately, I wrote 7 chapters about culture, the difference between England and Germany. And there's something called the coconut and the peach culture as well. So that wasn't my own information. That was from Erin Meyer, which I quoted in the book. So I did have some chapters that I just mixed in with the ADHD. Because remember, there was no one that I could go and talk to. There was actually no one. I had to, just through trial and error, just see what worked. And it took a while to do that. And of course, with medication, I can understand what I read. And I can recall information now if I need it, which is really nice.
Awesome, awesome. And there's a voice clip that you asked me to play. I'm just gonna ask you this last question, and then I'll play the clip. So, yep. You're in Germany right now, right? So I'm wondering what the view of ADHD is over there, because most of my previous guests that talked about ADHD, they spoke about it from an American perspective. So I'm wondering, how you being in Germany and German and English, what is how, I'm trying to get the words out. How does your culture view ADHD?
Well, when I first started writing the book, I set up a meetup on meetup.com, an ADHD success strategies group in my local area. And I ran that for 13 months. And I would turn up to the events or a pub, and want to meet with people. And over 13 months, no one responded at all. So on the day that I actually stopped the meetup group, someone got in contact with me, and I thought, okay, I'm going to open myself a private Facebook group as well, and this member helped with a couple of questions, posing things, do you have this problem as well as me with ADHD? We're going through the same things. Can we help each other? And that was the only post that happened for 7 months on a private Facebook site. Otherwise, nothing else happened. I'd post all the time. It's really, really difficult to, in a short way of saying it, no one's coming out to speak about it. And I just feel like I'm really the only one that's doing it.
So it sounds like there's not a lot of talk about it, or there's not a lot of awareness about it where you are.
No, there's not. And that's the reason why I did the 13-Hour Life Coach podcast as well for season 1. I had to basically, from a vulnerability side, just open myself up completely and say, this is what's going on with, particularly me with ADHD. And, you can see if that's similar to you, but I just want to put it out there. And really in vulnerability, I think is the biggest strength in this area.
All right. So I'm going to play that voice clip, and that describes more about what's going on with you. So give me 1 second. I'm just gonna put up my Facebook here, and what was that? So I'm looking at my Facebook Messenger right Now I just want to make sure I have the right clip. I thought that was it. I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna play a voice clip that I'm playing from my Facebook Messenger, and I'm gonna play the clip in its entirety for our audience.
The book I basically set up.
Sorry, I'm just gonna start from the beginning. Bear with me. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, so I talked with Gabriella really. I mean, I was diagnosed on the 2nd of December or something, 2019. Started my book on April 2020 and took a year and a half to write the success strategies for people with ADHD. And I just, finished the book and publicized that, and I was really pleased with it. And, between writing the book, I basically set up a meetup group in the local area for the region, and ADHD success strategies. Who wants to meet up? 13 months that run for. Yeah, I advertised it really well. And I turn up to these events hoping that people would just come by. I know what it's like for people with ADHD. You can't always make an appointment, but I spent the time building it up and spent money on that. And driving to the venue and everything in the hope that someone would turn up, and actually no one did over 13 months. And there's one lady that said, yeah, she'd turn up like a few weeks before I finished it. I stopped it and turned up at the event, and she said, oh, sorry, I can't make it. And and then I got a phone call from one lady that said, oh, I've seen your meetup thing. And I said, well, I cancelled it yesterday. Can't run it for 13 months without anyone actually wanting to help themselves. And this is what I wrote in my book, The 13-Hour Life Coach, that so many people don't want to help themselves, actually. So I started Facebook private group. Same thing, ADHD success strategies. The lady that got in contact with me on the meetup group, she helped me to the start. And I posted stories on there, and it's not stories, but this is what I'm going through. Is anyone else been going through? And not one person replied. Not one person over a 7-month period actually wrote back and said, I've got these problems. And that fell flat on its face as well. And so don't think that the knowledge out there for ADHD isn't all there. I mean, there's quite a lot of knowledge out there, and online to see, and books, and really, really good books, and really good listening books and everything. There's some good knowledge out there. There really, really is good knowledge out there. There's just no therapists to see. I go to my therapist and say, and obviously they don't know about ADHD. I ask a therapist, what is ADHD? And he couldn't give me a decent answer, right? But he's willing to take me on as a person, as a client, right? And that's the other thing. When you've got ADHD and you find stuff so difficult anyway, it sucks going to therapy as well for your ADHD. You just want to kind of enjoy your life a bit, And that's the other side of it, really. You put out, that would have been over like a 2-year period, wouldn't it, actually? 2 support networks, and not one person. Only one person replied. And Facebook is all over the world, and 7 months no one replied. So I stopped that as well and thought, well, what's going on? And even with the podcasts, I did the first season in English and German. I'm not moaning here. I'm just don't understand people. Did it in English and German. 13 episodes, I think. Put so much work into it and hours of editing. And, have I got any interviews in German? No, not for season 2. I've actually said on the, thank you very much podcast at the end of season 1, these interviews are all in English. And because there are no takers here in Germany. No one. Everyone is so quiet, and I can't do it. I can't fight the fight not fight the fight, but I can't support people that aren't willing to put any effort in. Yeah. So I said it on there. I said, do it in English, because I've got no German takers for it. And, I'm I'm not sour about it. It's just a bit odd. Just a bit odd. And again, wrote in the book 13-Hour Life Coach, I was in physiotherapy as an assistant. People would only do the exercises when I go and see them. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother. And I think that's really the other side of it. The information, there hasn't been that much information out in the past on websites and, especially when I was diagnosed, there was no one to go and see. There were here your medication, but I've got no one to kind of send you to so you can talk about it. And the first guy that I saw got his book out and on ADHD, because I saw it, and he went through the checklist and he says, what are you feeling? I said, I'm feeling this. And he goes, yeah, I'm feeling this. Yeah. And I said to him, does that line up with your book, what it says about ADHD? And he said, yeah. And I said, this is stupid. This is stupid. I've got ADHD. I really have no friends because no one wants to spend their time with me. Obviously, I'm neurodivergent, a bit different. And I'm sitting here and you're looking at your book, checking off ADHD from the checklist because obviously you don't know what it's about and I'm wasting my time. And that's the side I really wanted to bring out as well today with you, Gabriella.
All right. So, all right. So I wanted to get your thoughts on listening to that.
Yeah, but it's really difficult going for an ADHD diagnosis anyway. Like I said, when you've got ADHD, the last thing you want to do when you're having trouble anyway is go to another therapist in the evening. You want to do what everyone else does, and in a way, and just go out and have some fun for a change, right? And in my podcast notes, I can't remember the name of the guy, but ADHD was actually noted in a different form. It wasn't called ADHD back then, but it was noted in 1798. And I just wonder what happened. Why is it that I'm diagnosed with, this is a couple of hundred years we've known about stuff like this. And okay, times were different then, times have changed. But it's quite sad really that we go for an ADHD diagnosis, we get prescribed medication, and then there's nothing. There's no one to talk to about what you're going through. This is why I wrote the book, The 13-Hour Life Coach. I wanted to know what I was going through. There's no one to talk to, and it's like, I don't feel very good, because they can't give you an answer. And this is what I'm here for. This is what I do on the book and the podcast. Give people as solid answers as I can give right now to help them lead a better life.
Awesome. And you definitely are doing that. So definitely keep getting the word out there. All right. So I know we're having a lot of fun, but I'm going to start to wind things down. So do you have any final words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
I just want to say, whether you're English or German, please listen to my podcast, especially the first season, which goes through 13 episodes of what I was going through. If you also experience similar things, because it's really difficult to work out if you've got ADHD with your own brain, because you're using your own brain to work it out. And if it's not all there in a way, you can't do it. You need people from the outside like me to actually suggest something and go for it, really. Otherwise, if you've got ADHD, you're not broken. It's all good. You can just always learn some new things and change your environment and read my book, listen to my podcast. I really want to help everyone, men, season 2, women. It's all there. So see if you can get the book and please listen to the podcast.
Awesome. So, Simon, thank you so much for joining me today. This is definitely an enlightening conversation. All right, you guys. So, it's promo time. All right. So, Simon Arnold is on Facebook. Just Facebook for now, guys. So, definitely hit him up on Facebook. His handle is simon.arnie.1. So definitely hit him up on Facebook. So if you have any questions or you want to learn more about him, definitely check him out. For those of you watching this episode right now, it is at the bottom of your screen and it'll also be in the description for our YouTube viewers. So definitely check that out. And of course, as we've said many times, he has a podcast called The 13-Hour Life Coach. His podcast is on, let me see where his podcast is on. It is on Apple, Spotify, Overcast, Amazon Music, Stitcher, and podcastaddict.com. So definitely check out any of those platforms and look for the 13-Hour Life Coach. That is his podcast, and I encourage you to listen to those episodes wherever you are in the world. And he has a book. It is also called The 13-Hour Life Coach. His I think I wrote it twice. Oh, I wrote it twice on the screen. That's fine. Oh, yes, please hold up your book for our viewers. Yes, The 13-Hour Life Coach. There you go. I'm just going to describe it. It's like a white middle part, and then the ends are green for those of you listening. So it's a green and white book for those of you listening right now. And you can buy his book right now on Amazon. So his book is available right now on Amazon.com. And I encourage you to go out there and get that book. And of course, all of this information will be provided to you in the description for those of you watching this on YouTube right now. And I believe in the audio format as well. You'll also see all this information in the description. All right, so Simon, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much, Gabrielle. Thank you. That was great.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to place you backstage. All right, you guys, and it is just you and me. So I'm going to share my information as well. All right. So we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. So wherever you are listening to this episode, please check us out. Well, I'm losing my thoughts. Sorry. Wherever you are listening to this episode right now, please check out our platform for more videos and clips. And don't forget to follow us. And while you're at it, please let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. As a reminder, this web series is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about us, you could check us out online. Our website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. And there is a special promotion going on right now. When you reach out to us and you let us know that you heard about us from Hot Topics, we'll give you 15% off 6 hours of tutoring. That's right. You heard that right. 16, no, not 16. Whoa, 15, 15% off 6 hours of tutoring if you mention that you heard about us from Hot Topics. And lastly, I also encourage you to sign up for our email list and our texting list. Stay in touch with us. You will get exclusive discounts, offers, and promotions when you sign up for our email list and our texting list. So I encourage you to do that. That information is at the bottom of your screen for our viewers. And for our listeners, you can learn more about signing up for those things on our website, www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. All right, I'm going to share this final message before we officially close.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Note: we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
All right, and that is it. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you again, and now I am signing off. Bye.